There we go. Okay. So, sorry about that delay. Okay, so introduce yourself. This is kind of a formal thing that we have. I think we've got too much of a big group today for us to do individuals, each one by one. So we'll pick on a few of the newbies, I think. So we've had some informal chat with you, Tony, but please introduce yourself. Tell us who you
Hey,
are, where you're from, and
sure. Sure. So my name's Tony Simpson. I'm meant to be in Johannesburg, but I'm sitting in London at the moment because I got stuck here. But I'm the CEO of Netstock, which is a cloud-based inventory optimization business. And I'm delighted to be, part of this conversation. It's been interesting for me because we have a very close association with Sage globally. And of course, the Sage guys have been having these type of hellos and get to know and chats. And it's been interesting to see how they all are differently managed. And I mean, you've got a big group here now, 25. So I'm delighted to be part of it. Anything I can contribute, I can tell you more about the things that we see going on and the anxieties and how we're actually navigating the market at the moment. Happy to share as much as we can. Just by way of introduction, we've got Wade as a newbie with us. He's a relatively new recruit into Netstock. He's sitting in the wind-blown Cape Town, so and he survived the wind, so good on him. But thank you.
thanks, Tony. Let's have a look here. Okay, Monica Grobler. You want to say hello to everybody?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm new to this. My colleagues sent this on to me because I did my final year project. Last year, I finished my degree in industrial engineering. I did it in supply chain. So she thought I would find this interesting. But yeah, I'm just currently working for a renewable energy company. We're an IPP. But it's, nice to be talking to you guys. Excited for the discussion.
Fantastic, Monica. It's good to have you, and I hope you enjoy the session.
Mm.
I have the STUM GRP. Who are you? Because there's not a name there. It would be nice to see the face behind that abbreviation, I assume it is.
Ralph. Tonya, is that working? Ralph Stunges. I think I am one of your groupies. I'm hanging around on the outside because I'm actually not in supply chain. I'm with the project management office at UNISA. Oh. I studied supply chain years ago, but life takes you in different directions. So here I am just trying to keep myself abreast of developments in the business. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you and welcome. We'll take one more. Let's have a look here. Zanelli.
Hi everyone, it's Zandile from Zandile. Yes.
Hi. Okay, we've got a Zandile.
Oh, Zandile. Oh, okay. I thought you say okay. Let me.
Okay, Zanelli.
Oh, hi everyone.
Hello.
I'm Zanele. I'm from UNISA. I'm a lecturer there.
Okay.
I'm in industrial engineering. I studied industrial engineering, and obviously I've worked in so many places like CSIR, where I was dealing mostly with projects in supply chain. And also at UNISA now, I do have some subjects that I teach that are connected to supply chain. So yes. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks for joining us. And I think since Sandili started to introduce herself, we'll say hi to her too.
Thank you, Tanya. I'm also in supply chain. I'm in one of the leading retailers. My function mainly being in quality. So yeah, that's why I also joined to get some info.
Good to have you here. I hope you enjoy the session.
Sure.
So if we look at the definition of ingenuity, it talks about being cleverly inventive, resourceful, inventiveness, skillfulness, design. So I think if you look at just the words, I know that from an African point of view, we certainly are resourceful, and definitely we are inventive, and we have skills too. So I just wanted to put that up there, just so that we could understand from which angle we're looking at this ingenuity that we're talking about today. So if you have a little bit of research, they talk about African companies are models for ingenuity and innovation. So some of the figures they talk about here, sustainable business models could open an economic prize of 1.1 trillion and create 85 million jobs by 2030. That is a massive contribution. That's huge. Obviously, COVID-19 has had some effects on that. But let's not take away from the fact that we can achieve great things and make great financial contributions. And the world is seeing increasingly that African companies are models for what can be achieved with ingenuity and innovation as they solve difficult social challenges. So a lot of the ingenuity that comes about from Africa is as a result of our social challenges and the issues that we have within the African continent and our countries. We all have our own problems and challenges, but a lot of the innovation that comes about is as a result of that, and ways to address it and to tackle it, and to come up with solutions for that. So one of the things that is mentioned is the new thinking. So as Africans, we're not stuck on old solutions. And we're not afraid to try new things, and for me that's a different discussion, because I have always been of the perception that we are, to a certain extent, not risk takers, and we're more conservative. But I think that definitely is swung in a different direction, and we have the opportunity to lead the way in doing better business for a better world. Especially in the green growth and development, which still remains untapped. There is some work happening in that sector, but there's a lot of room for growth and development, and some really good opportunities in there. So there you have it. We are definitely up there leading innovation. So some of you would have heard the presentation, Twigger Foods, that was done by Peter and Gary at our virtual conference a few weeks ago, where they had to tackle the challenges of food distribution across primarily Canada, but the continent. So most of consumer spending in Africa happens in the informal roadside markets, even those countries with well-developed retail and distribution markets. For many people, these vendors on the side of the road that we see are the main channel for where people access food and drinks that they consume. So if you look at the figures from World Bank, 55% of disposable income in Kenya and 60% in Nigeria is spent on food consumption, compared to 8% in the UK. That's a massive number. That's a massive number. So in order to serve the needs of the people with food, there are things that need to be done to make sure that can happen. Because in the traditional sense, and the way that things have always been done, that's not easy to achieve. So Twigger Foods went on a project to change things and to come up with solutions to speed it up, make food available, make sure there was less food waste, and they needed to be able to access all the suppliers and all the people that they needed to supply. That doesn't make sense. Suppliers and their market. So the idea was to provide access to low-cost, high-quality food using mobile technology to aggregate demand in the informal retail sector. I mean, you can imagine how difficult it is to try and predict the demand or manage demand in an environment like that. So a mobile-based cashless platform to aggregate the demand of thousands of small and medium-sized retailers in Kenya, enabling them to order fresh and processed food as and when they need it, as and when they need it. So this is kind of like on time, real time. They needed to source quality, fresh, processed food from thousands of farmers and food manufacturers, and have that delivered to their pack house, which then needed to be distributed to 35,000 vendors. Farmers and food manufacturers have guaranteed access to a fairly priced, transparent mobile marketplace, and retailers can consistently source low-cost quality produce, which is conveniently delivered to their doorstep within 18 hours of ordering. I think that this is quite an achievement if you look at it from an African sense. And I mean, this Twiga story is an incredible case study. So the results were fantastic. The solution is unique to Kenya and Twiga. It's delivering lower food costs, less waste, and improved sustainability. So obviously, one of the focused areas in supply chain management at the moment is less waste and improved sustainability. It's a big driver. And the fact that they've taken this on board and are addressing this is incredibly exciting. The facilities that were developed for Twiga are world-class, world-class. There they are in the middle of Kenya with these incredible facilities. Investments in supply chain and materials handling technology have reduced food waste by 70%. That's a big number. The Twiga volumes and projections outstrip the scale and extent of work done for some major retailers in South Africa and around the world, in Kenya, in Africa. And as a result of this project, Twiga Foods was nominated the 35th most innovative company in the world in Africa. So this is just one example of the incredible things and incredible projects that are happening in and around us. And in many cases, we're not even aware of them. We're so busy looking to often Europe and the US for solutions and innovative ideas that we're not even looking internally. We're not looking to ourselves to create our own solutions to problems. So we have this Kevin Kimwelli. He is an architect and social entrepreneur. So this talks to supply chain, but in a very, very informal way. As we know, the South African collection of waste is a problem. It's not reliable. It's not collected when it's supposed to be. So it just ends up getting left lying around, ends up in the wrong place. It's not very very green and world friendly, if you want to look at it from that perspective. But as the trash piles up in Port Elizabeth, the formal and informal economy has sprung up in response. So they've looked at this and they found an opportunity as to what they can do with all this, what we call rubbish. So if you look at the figure here, 41% of households are without basic waste collection services. That is huge. And 90% of it ends up in landfills. That's a scary figure. At what point are we going to run out of landfills? Where is all this stuff going to go? And these are the things that as supply chain professionals, we need to have on our agenda, and we need to be taking action and addressing it, because at some point there will be nowhere else for the trash to go. So our Kevin, he also in Kenya. Kenya's right up there with all the good stuff that's happening. He collects recycled and discarded materials from informal recyclers and local businesses and uses it to construct buildings, schools, rainwater tanks, and even solar panels. He says, when you drive through Africa, you see that people make do with what they have. There is ingenuity there. And he is so, so right. If you think that somebody can trawl the streets and pick up recycled goods that he calls recycled, we call trash, and make something meaningful out of it, like a school, that is unbelievable. So there are these opportunities for people to create jobs in these informal supply chains. So his most high-profile project so far is Sindokuleli Creche in Joe Slovo Township, north of the city, With the help of the community, he designed and built a structure made entirely of recycled materials. 2,500 wine bottles, of which I'm sure there are quite a few of you that have contributed to the wine bottle situation. And at the moment, that is not possible because of our alcohol lockdown. So he's definitely missing out on some recycling there. But the glass bottle walls create an illuminated, rather magical atmosphere inside the building. I mean, this is absolutely unbelievable to believe that you can build a school from recycled or used bottles. They were sourced from some of the restaurants in Port Elizabeth, and the materials that were available were re-engineered, adding value to the structure. Fostering local skills, creating jobs for local people, developing skills, and taking the green agenda to the township. So these guys are taking green supply chain and sustainability seriously. There's no excuse for us. So with COVID-19 and everybody reeling, there was a lot of good stuff that was happening across Africa. So Senegal created antigen and antibody tests that could be done at home at the cost of $1. Okay, results available within 10 minutes. I mean, that's quite something. That is quite something. Ghana has the second highest rate of testing for COVID-19 after South Africa. What did they do? Pool testing. Pool testing entails multiple blood samples together and only conducting individual tests if the pool test reveals a positive result. So this allows them to test more people at a faster pace at a lower cost. A triage tool from Nigeria. A health tech startup company allows users to assess their COVID risk by asking questions about their symptoms, where they've been, and then they are categorized into various categories: low, medium, high risk. Then based on their categorization, they will be directed to remote medical advice or nearby facility. In the first 2 weeks, the triage tool was used by 380,000 people. That's a big number. Then we have South Africa, and I am not sure how many of you have heard about this. I have to say that I haven't. But apparently we have a WhatsApp chatbot that was launched to measure and do health checks and the like, and is now being rolled out and used in other countries like Ethiopia, Madagascar, New Zealand, Australia. It helps to detect and map and manage cases earlier, which provides information, especially for the frontline health workers. It was launched in March. It can answer common questions about the virus and has reached over 6.2 million users in 5 languages. And that is out of South Africa. So can I ask, does anybody here in the session, has anybody heard of this? Has anybody heard of it? Has anybody used it? Just show of hands. That's scary. It's scary. We're not even aware of the innovation that's going on in our own country. As I said, it's the first time I've heard about it. I wasn't aware about it. I think we need to do a bit of research and find what this is all about. So in Guinea, they have created a health scan tablet that can detect body temperature, heart rate, and oxygen levels using a thermal camera and sensors. So this allows medical personnel, professionals to determine if someone has COVID in a matter of minutes. We can target the hottest part of the body and get a much more reliable temperature reading than from a thermoflash forehead reading. This is out of Guinea. All of these were to address COVID-19. So this is rapid response. This is quick turnaround. Tunisia created a web-based platform that scans lungs, x-rays them, and evaluates whether somebody's likely to have COVID-19. From there, they can take a response recovery approach. So again, have any of you here heard of any of those African innovations, solutions? examples. Are any of you aware of anything else that's similar to this that's been developed in Africa that talks to innovation and solutions? I can't believe that there is nobody here that is aware of anything incredible that has happened in our continent. Even if it's in the slightly less formal sector. Those of you that are dealing with smaller companies, I mean, they have a tendency to be more agile and responsive quicker than the bigger companies. So there's nothing here that strikes you as exciting, incredible, and kind of world-breaking that we should be talking about and exploring. It's very disturbing for me. Okay, so, and I want to drop this in here because I think that this is part and parcel of this discussion. It's not by any means a sales pitch, but I want to make you aware of it. The African Supply Chain in Action Conference, it's happening on the 19th to 20th of August, the biggest online or virtual supply chain conference for Africa, purely and solely for Africa. So we'll be looking at African case studies, we will be looking at African stories, we'll be looking at African innovation, so that we can learn from our cousins in other countries and from our colleagues across African countries. Because you can see from some of the things I put up here, there's some incredible stuff that's happening. And we should be learning from those type of people, those type of organizations, and in strengthening ourselves through unity of our continent, because we don't do it enough. We don't look to home for solutions for our problems. So this is all about Africans for Africa. And I think that the program that is lined up so far it takes a lot of things into account. We have literally covered the end-to-end supply chain. We're looking at public procurement. We will obviously include panel discussions. There will be some debates, I'm sure, that are going to be part of the program. There's lots to discuss, especially now coming out of COVID-19. So although that being said, I'm not sure that we're coming out of it anytime soon by the looks of the numbers. But we need to be prepared for what comes next. We need to be prepared to stay relevant and functional and sustainable during now, and keep our businesses afloat. But we need to know what's next after COVID-19. As we start moving out of the COVID-19, where to from here? Now, everybody's reeling, organizations across the globe are reeling. But as South Africans and Africans, what do we need to do to make our businesses work for us? What can we do and to use this opportunity? And I mean, in some respects, Tony, you said that you've had really busy months now. Things have been really busy. So there are definitely opportunities out there. There are spaces in which you can create opportunities. You just need to explore them. So I want to have some discussion around this. I don't want to be the one talking all the time, because I get tired of listening to my own voice. So I really would welcome from the floor any comments or discussions or thoughts that you have on ingenuity in Africa, and how you think we rate and compare against the US and the Europes of the world.
You know, I think one of the areas that has nothing to do with my business, but I've noted it because I bank in different parts of the world, is the banking engine that's developing in South Africa and maybe in the rest of Africa, in order to provide ways of transferring money and using money to pay for things, I think is extraordinary in South Africa and Africa. You know, you try and open a bank account in England or in America, just see what you've got to go through. and how quickly you can do it in South Africa. I don't know if that's developing faster. I mean, I did open a Starling bank account in England, and that was pretty quick, and that was like using the internet. But I think that's happening faster and faster, and needs to, because the informal section that we have, that we're dealing with, has a lot of purchasing power, but needs to be able to transact without having to deal with cash. And I think that's something that we're going to see more and more of happening in our world that we work in. Certainly that I think is quite exciting, in fact.
No, it is indeed. Thank you, Tony. James, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the benefits we have in Africa is because we don't have...
Oh, James, you stopped.
So he's got load shedding. For James to come back, Tonya, I'm surprised you didn't mention G.G. Alcock and what's happening in our informal sector. I think they're being very
Sorry guys, I just got load shedding. I don't know if you can still
I told
hear
you.
me.
I told you got load shedding.
Yeah,
and what G.G. Alcock talks about our informal sector and the innovative ways that people are providing business in those areas, I think is quite incredible. And I mean, I was staggered after reading his book. I lived here for 40 years or more, and I never realized that this economy is happening in the background there, and we don't really know anything about it.
No, and I think that, I mean, I know definitely without a shadow of a doubt that SMMEs are the biggest contributor to the economy in South Africa, certainly, and I think that goes without saying globally. But a lot of what's happening is happening in the informal sector, and like you say, Ken, it's things that we've never even heard of. The amount of money that's exchanging hands with these, you know, these people sitting on the side of the road, for example, or I don't know what else they do. I mean, we as Africans are incredibly creative as well and talented in the arts and that sort of thing. So there are all those types of things going on. So yeah, there's definitely lots of stuff going on there, and maybe it's an opportunity for everybody to have a read of that book and have a better understanding of what actually is going on from a business perspective in South Africa that's completely informal, that most of us never even heard of.
I believe we're getting Gigi to do a webinar for us. Is that right?
He's speaking at the ASCA conference.
Oh, he's okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss out on that one. I'm not sure if James is coming back. He looks like he's stuck in the dark.
Looks a little frozen there with his load shedding.
He does.
Yeah, I think I got caught mid-sentence. Sorry, everybody.
No, that's fine, James. Okay, we have no sound coming from you now.
Oh, okay. Let me.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so no, apologies. Let me get out of this room. Yeah, so unfortunately, about 50% of my system is directly into electricity, so that all just went down completely. And I've totally lost my train of thought. So let me just keep quiet and let everyone else carry on.
Okay. Anybody else working in the or have access or deal with small organizations that have come up with some really creative and exciting business ideas?
I think from me, I have friends of ours that have a little program they call course, and it's basically, it was just developed. It's also a small business that they started up a few years ago, and the basic idea is to take out the middleman between the people that buy fresh goods from the farmers and the people that actually consume it. So they kind of go to the market and buy these products on demand from the clients. But now what's happened in COVID is because of people going to online shopping all the more, they have absolutely boomed. And from that, they've started to, raise funds to actually distribute these fresh products to, rural areas where people don't have access to fresh food in South Africa. And that was quite interesting. I mean, they've doubled their numbers in workforce, and they've really done very well. And that's just exciting to see how, as a small company grows, how they just put out the extra that they make and just invest it into the community. And I think those kind of things are happening everywhere in South Africa. So it's very encouraging.
No, thanks for that, Monica. That is very encouraging and very exciting. And like Ken said, I think there's a lot of these things that are going on that none of us are even aware of. I mean, if I hadn't gone and done a little bit of research today, I wouldn't have even known about these things that have been done for COVID. I wouldn't have been aware of them. The trigger story we know about because it was one of the presentations at our conference. It's an incredible success story. And I'm pretty sure that there are lots and lots and lots and lots of them out there. And I would like to encourage each and every one of you just to go out and just find one. Just go and find one story of ingenuity in Africa. It doesn't have to be South Africa, in Africa. And I think you'll be very surprised at what you find. You'll probably be shocked at what you find. So I think we have the solutions, we have the answers to the problems. We have the solutions to the problems within ourselves. Within Africa, we can help ourselves. We don't need to be looking outside to do it. In fact, we can set the lead for other countries to follow. Like Tony has mentioned about the banking sector. A lot of the way that we do things is to alleviate it being too difficult. So we like to keep things simple because in a lot of cases, there are a lot of uneducated people that struggle with banking and the like. So the banks have made things easier, and they've created these innovative solutions that serve our industry well, but are probably leaps and bounds ahead of some of the other countries. I know for a fact that our is it not our credit act, the way that you lend money, I think it had to do with buying houses. It was probably the best one in the world because they had worked it out based on your affordability and this, that, and the other. And at the time, it was some time ago, we had the best practice for that in the world. Imagine, in South Africa. So there's really, really lots of good stuff there. James, have you remembered what you wanted to say? Or is it completely gone now?
So yeah, the point I was trying to make then is one of the benefits in Africa is actually, in some instances, our lack of infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So that we haven't had to try and modify, for example, the old telephone systems in many rural areas. We've actually managed to bypass almost an entire generation of technology. And we've gone from no phones to cell phones. And we've gone from no banking to smartphone banking because it just wasn't there in the first place. So incredibly, we're better off in some instances than you might be in America in terms of the abilities in the banking systems and in terms of internet access, even if it's too expensive. But the fact is we bypassed levels of infrastructure.
That's a very, very good point. In fact, I think one of the words that I read this morning looking for the stuff was leapfrog. So in a lot of cases, we are leapfrogging and we are jumping steps ahead in certain areas. And the infrastructure is a very, very good point. It is a very good point.
Yeah.
Daniel just popped up here in front of me. Daniel, would you like to add something?
Unmute. I want to just add on to what James said about Africa. Our operations in terms of what I see in the world, and we operate our business in 34 countries in terms of engineering and design and innovative technology. you'll be surprised how much engineering and these kind of things are done out of South Africa. But I think one of the key factors that is in favor of Africa is our flexibility, our ability to mark a plan. This is typically African. I'll give you an example. In terms of a supply chain activity experience early in this COVID-19 pandemic, you all, well, I guess most of us watched Sky News like I did for many, many hours during the start of this thing. And what was on the news every day was Italy. Italy, you know, Sky News sent a journalist in there into the red zone, and you know, all the bad news, and people were dying like flies in Italy. When that happened, and Italy happens to be the head office of my company, where everything around the world is controlled from. All of a sudden, one of the things we own in Milan is we own a hospital. It's something we started a few years ago as like a give back to the community. Bonita's hospital in Milan, and it's a complete hospital that was set up by our company. All of a sudden, we had two problems. One, our factory, a big factory outside in Castellanza near Milan, could not get masks. We had 100 people in the factory that couldn't get masks locally in Italy. Our hospital ran out of surgical masks. They couldn't handle patients. And here you have a multi-billion euro organization that couldn't get masks from anywhere. Where did they turn to? They turned to South African office. Why? Because we've always been, and this is not my company, I'm talking about South Africa. We've always been able to look at alternative ways to make things work. This is so typically South African. I don't know, when if you go into a township, I mean, if you look at Ingenuity, you just have to take a walk through any of these areas and see what we are. We ended up getting masks out of China, which Italy couldn't get delivered directly from China into Italy, brought it to South Africa, had delivered into Italy because of one thing. It's not because we were better than anybody. It's because of the flexibility. South African operations in terms of supply chain are extremely flexible, sometimes to our own detriment because we become too flexible. I have a project in Israel at the moment, and when you start giving them ideas and all that, you know, you give them the finger, they take the whole hand, that type of thing. But I think in terms of ingenuity and in the future of supply chain, and that is so typically South African and African, is our ability to be flexible and to make a plan. We find a solution with or without technology, as James pointed out.
Thank you, Daniel. No, you definitely, as they say, mock a plan is definitely a South African South Africanism, and it's very, very, very true. I think that there's no doubt, and I think if we look forward now, coming out of COVID-19, we should look at it from a more positive angle and look at the opportunities that it's going to create for businesses, for people starting out. Because we are adaptable, we are flexible. In many cases, we are agile. We already have so much stuff to deal with. And that's why I think that we are so resourceful and so resilient. I mean, if you look at it now, the power's out again, everywhere. But we still manage, to carry on. You know, we find ways to carry on. It's just, you know, I mean, our healthcare system's not great. Our schooling system's not great, but somehow we kind of, we bumble along and we get it done. So I think that we have it within ourselves, and we are quite capable of being a world leader when it comes to ingenuity and innovation. So I think that I want to challenge all of you to go and have a look and research something on ingenuity, just random, something random. And if you go to our LinkedIn page, you can just drop a note there so that we can have a look and see what it's all about. I talked about the ASCA conference. Talking about ingenuity in Africa and what's happening and what people are doing. I think this conference offers a really, really good opportunity for us to unpack and explore more of that, and to learn more from the people that understand us, because we all have very, very similar challenges and issues to deal with every day. So the conference will provide you with updates, useful content for Africa, for Africans. And as a continent, we need to come together and stand together and fight this. So the detail is on our website. So go and have a look and see. I promise you it'll be worth attending. There will be no letdowns there. So if nobody has anything else to add or any other comments to make, I'm going to wrap it up, because I seem to be doing an awful lot of talking today. And everybody's very, very quiet. I understand James is sitting in the dark over there.
Tonya, Ken here. Just something I thought of, but yesterday, Jenny did a fantastic job of taking this concept of this SAPEX Connect actually into America, because they're not doing it over in America. And she did the first American Connect session yesterday afternoon. And yeah, I think that's also quite brilliant. We're exporting an idea from Africa into the USA.
That's a very good point. It's very true. In fact, we have relationships with a number of the international bodies, such as, like ourselves, so the equivalent in other countries. There were some things that we had done on social media and put out there, and lo and behold, it resurfaces from our global partners. What do they say? Imitation is the highest form of flattery. So we've done a lot of things that have been copied or reproduced by some of our international partners. So we are really forward thinking in terms of that, and quick on our feet as South Africans. So we can all be very proud to be South African. I know it's difficult sometimes, but we will have to be very proud, and keep thinking out the box, keep thinking outside the box, keep thinking about creative ways to make not only supply chains, but South Africa better. So ultimately our economy can improve, and improve the lives for each and every one of us. So I'm going to wrap up and say goodbye, and thank all of you for being here this afternoon. I hope it was worthwhile. I hope you learned something. And for the groupies, thank you. And for the rest of you that it's your first time, I hope to see you back in next time. Have a super
Thank you, Tony. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys.
Very, very
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye. Hi.
Oh. Hold on. Oh.
Yeah.
I can't remove.
Billy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see.
Okay, I'll put him in the waiting room. He's gone now.
Okay, yeah. Shawaz, he was from up in Africa.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
We're going to stop recording.
Are you here, Kaden? Hello. Yeah.
I just made it out of the French place.
Okay, I think stop and then we can talk.